that's it. Life is, done and over with. And what we have seen in past decade and a half or so, that learning is not something which has got anything to do with age, anything to do with the role that you are playing, anything that you are professionally occupied with, or your professional occupation is. So I come from a background where education was the primary reason and one of the top priority. And in HDFC Bank, till that time, the only thing that I was bothered was about technology, and I was reaching at a stage in a career where general management was more important for me. And the second part is that live experience, yes, it does give you in the corporate the live experience, but what Pgpmax and the thought that went behind it was to start unlearning whatever was learned for so many years, and then learn new stuff from one of the best profs out there with the curriculum, which was focusing on the entire general management related aspects. So I think it was not just about the career progression, it was also related to how to understand and go back to that school, because there you are a student and you just have to learn. And then the journey started, tough one, not easy, along with the job. It helped definitely in the HDFC Bank because I did after that varied roles, and they were almost 50% management, 50% technology. So, and I could actually implement whatever I had learned, particularly the softer aspects, more importantly, into that space. And once I got experience across, moved to HSBC, which is a completely different culture where your soft skills, your general management skills, your people skills are very key. And that is something which you get exposure when you are in course like Pgpmax, and that too when you have, those wonderful experienced profs who just who just treat you like a student who is sitting on the desk, whether you are a senior vice president, you are a CEO, or you are whatever. So I think that hits you hard and brings you back to reality that yes, you have come here to learn, and you better learn and go back and do implement it. And I did get chance in both these organizations, and I think it did help me even in a current role that I'm in.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Aparna. There are a few questions from some of our participants joining in today who are from the technology background. So I'll come back to you on those questions as well as we progress. Now let me come to you, Bindu. So you were the service delivery leader for APAC payroll outsourcing business of Aon Hewitt. And then you co-founded Shikshadan Foundation while pursuing the program. So can you walk us through this journey of yours? How did you decide to do Pgpmax? And how is the experience helping you today? And also tell us a little about Shikshadan Foundation, please.
Sure. So I think it will be a mix of my corporate stint and what I'm doing with Shikshadan right now. So I'll start with the corporate stint because that's when I did the program. I was part of the 9 to 5 corporate world for about 24 years. First half of that life has been with the computer training industry, which also included an entrepreneurial stint where we went bankrupt. So that's the reason I mentioned the bankruptcy is because that's what led to Shikshadan. I'll come to that in a minute. The second half, or close to 60% of my career, has been with the BPO industry, specifically with the HR outsourcing industry. My last stint was with Aon Hewitt, like you mentioned. I started with them as the 37th employee, and when I left, it was nearly 12,000 people. Unlike what Aparna mentioned, my entire experience has been in general management. I don't think I was good enough to specialize in any particular area, so I never got into it. So I've been the only specialization is probably managing people and managing operations. And I managed for about 10 years of the 12 years that I spent with Aon Hewitt. I managed operations for what we call the East Business Unit, which is clients serviced out of the US East Coast offices. The last 1.5 years or so, I spent with the APAC payroll division. Of course, Aon Hewitt no longer exists the way it was at that point in time. The outsourcing business has been sold off. India outsourcing piece has been sold off to Wipro. So it's now Wipro BPO, which is where I had the start of my BPO stint, but we won't get there. I'm at the peak, I probably managed a group of 1,500 plus people with a very wide geographical spread. I think the question that you asked about why Pgpmax, there's a fundamental pet logic that I have got, which is that, which I hope will be applied to MBA education soon. There should be only exec MBAs. The reason for that is right after college, going, even if it is to an IIM or to ISB, right after college or just a year or two of experience, is really not doing justice to the program. Because if you do an exec MBA or if you do an MBA after 10 years minimum, you are able to apply some of the learnings. You're able to appreciate the program a lot more compared to right out of college. I mean, the way I say it colloquially in Hindi is, जब तक चार थप्पड़ नहीं खाया, जब तक चार लोगों को डांटा नहीं, you really don't know what it means to, you learn about conflict resolution. What does that mean? Till you have really got into the thick of something and failed at something or succeeded at something, it really doesn't, it's just theories. So I think that was the reason why I never wanted to do an MBA. I always wanted to do an exec MBA. And of course, I can't get through GMAT. So there was no other option any which way. I had to do an exec MBA. And I did the best, which was, Pgpmax, which was, is, and probably will be Pgpmax for a long, long time. So that's the reason how I landed in Pgpmax. And if you have a minute, you wanted me to share about Shikshadan. So Shikshadan Foundation is a NGO that my husband and I set up in 2012. We provide scholarships to students after 12 to pursue their degree, engineering, or vocational programs. And so far, we have supported 14,000 plus students and disbursed about 18.5 crores. So that's very quickly what we do.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you, Bindu, for sharing that. Now let me ask you, Pankaj. So you were part of Telenor India in various capacities, from heading process operations and program management office to leading corporate affairs for the company. And you're now the partner for regulatory consulting at EY. So walk us through this journey of yours. What was your rationale to consider Pgpmax back then, and how has it helped you professionally?
Thanks very much, and so nice to be here. Talking to everybody. And first of all, I would like to really congratulate everybody who's coming and part of this conversation, because if you are not thinking about your career, then you will not be here. So I think then I would say, if you really want to do something in life, first thing is you have to start thinking and planning about it. So and there's always a step of how do you want to go about it. So it's great to kind of interact with everybody in this session. Now let me tell you something. What happens in everybody's corporate journey is, and especially when you have worked for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, depending upon everybody has his or her own journey, and so was mine. There comes a time when you feel you need to put booster to your your career, or you need to accelerate yourself, or maybe you need to get into higher orbit. And how does one do that? That was the question I was asking myself. I had a fairly good successful stint. I was actually almost there as a operating as a CXO, but still I was always feeling what next do I need to do. And that was the time I started to look around and see, okay, if I want to take myself to the next level, then what do I really have to do? And so when I started to look around that, as usual, there have been various options in life, so as options in education and all that. And we started to look at and see, okay, then why don't we look at and do this Pgpmax course. And that is how I ended up doing it, obviously. And again, looked at various options, kind of agree with what Bindu said. This is one of the very reputed course. Came in over here, the kind of interaction we had, the way the whole course is structured, the way the professors came in, and that whole life. I would say that this was, how many decisions one take, how many important decisions one takes in life. I would say, if I start to evaluate myself, from my schooling days, college days, first job, next job, how many important is that? In life, I think rest of the things happen, right? I'm talking corporate. Even if you include personal life, I think your whole, if anybody would reflect back, you will probably take 4 or 5 most critical decisions in your life. And this was also one of the great decisions in life, that I took. And obviously, I have loved every moment of it. Now, how second question, how has it helped, right? I think is that
correct. That's right.
Okay. Very hard to quantify, because I always believe learning in something, you can't quantify in terms of how it has helped you. If you, I don't think one can just talk about it only in terms of monetary, right? To me, monetary is just part of it, important part of it, but just it. But I would say, when you get on to this level, and you have to face, you are there in those boardrooms, you're taking those decisions when you have your peers, and taking. So you, first of all, you need to have lots of knowledge, okay, and trust me, the life does become a little tough as all of us have grown in our career life. You have to take a lot of important decisions, and for taking those important decisions, you need to have lots of experience, you need to have lots of knowledge, and all of this. How do you articulate? How are you conducting yourself? How are you talking to? As I said, all of this comes in once you do an important course like Pgpmax. And that is where I would say helped us. It has helped me to be relevant in current times. I think that is so important, right? Because the way technology is changing and the way learning curves are changing, and how do you keep yourself relevant, be competitive, be employable, so important. So all of that has really helped. So I don't think I would have been there in my current job, or I would have really grown in my previous job, but for this important milestone decision that I would have really taken in my life.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you for sharing that. And a quick comment to our audience now. Please keep sharing your questions in the Q&A box as we progress, and we'll be taking it up shortly. Now, let's talk about the rigor and how you balance your work, life, and study while pursuing Pgpmax. So, Bindu, let me start with you on this. A role where you handled APAC responsibilities. You were managing teams in India, Shanghai, Singapore, Philippines. So the related professional commitments, family, and then the academic and networking rigor of Pgpmax. So how did you balance this?
So I think a very important point out here, which I would like to emphasize. The reason Pgpmax insists on at least 12 to 15 years of work experience is precisely because by the time you have 15 or 18 years of experience, you hopefully reached a level where you can delegate work. You've got teams that will take on the work that you need to be maybe physically present to do, and you can carve out time to do a program like this. If somebody is starting out in their career, Pgpmax really doesn't help. Or even if they are somewhere in the middle management level, it's a little difficult to carve out that time. So that's the first thing which I would like to say. So the other important thing is that in terms of family, without that family support, it's almost impossible that you can get into and do this program, because it is literally forgetting about family events. It's about not being able to look at what's happening at home. We hope we don't have children, so that's an advantage that I had. But people with children, it's really, really difficult, because you're really not going to, they're also at a stage where they are probably in middle school or something, and it's just impossible to make time for everything. So you need family support. You need to be really good at managing your time. And that's one thing which I learned very early in life. So I guess it helped me during the program as well. The other important thing is that the 5 weeks that you get in between each term, use that time very judiciously. You can complete reading that material over that period of time. Make sure that the 1 week that you are at the campus, you don't look at work. So you should be able to manage your work in such a way that unless there's an emergency, you're really not called for something there. If you're able to separate that period out, it's not difficult. It's not easy either. I don't think you'll have withdrawal symptoms at the end of doing the program, because you've forgotten watching movies, you've forgotten looking at TV, you've forgotten several other things. So it takes a little while to come out of that mode. But yeah, that's what every great project is, right? You focus on it so much that some other things will fall off by the wayside, but that's your priority. So put that up as the first thing to do.
Thank you, Bindu. Now, Aparna, let me come to you on this. So, group-wide responsibilities, and you were handling HDFC Bank and also the deliverables for HDFC Securities back then. So, we are talking about large teams, IT infrastructures, and so the demand at work, family, friends, and then the demanding needs of a program as rigorous as Pgpmax. So, how did you find the balance?
Honestly, if you ask me, there is nothing like balance for anybody who's working. There's nothing called balance, because at that point in time, that moment is very important. So what happens is, what happened, at least in my case, I had a really very large team, almost 15 to 1800 people. And the first thing was that my second line, who were my colleagues, very senior colleagues, they took up a lot of responsibility for themselves, on themselves. And the second point, which is very important, is this was an investment. Like people buy home, right? And it's not a small amount of money that you are putting it up in your career. And this is something as an investment when you do, and you have a passion for learning, you get into that mode where you want to be doing everything perfectly and meet for whatever reason you had taken up this course. So very tough time for me it was, because we were doing some very, very large group-wide projects, initiatives. I have twin sons. They were in a very critical age, but the idea was that before they get into the 10th standard or 10th board, we should be through with the Pgpmax. So hence, that was another key reason. We were supported by a family to an extent, but I had my local support out here. Another very important and critical aspect is your organization is with you. So it allows you to take that step, to move forward, to go ahead and do this, because they also believe in the values and the passion that you had for learning. So it's not just family, it's not just your team members, it's also about the organization, which is matured enough to support you, to give you this opportunity without impacting your current career. Because that plays a big thing, right? At the end of the day, that you won't be around and you'll be only there when certain things are or if there is an emergency and you are needed. No, the organization support is equally important, and I was very lucky to be there as part of the bank who really supported me in this journey.
Thank you, Aparna. Thank you for sharing that. Very important points there, especially about the organization support, because there's a lot of questions that we get when it comes to the letter of support and how do you go about sourcing it? How do you start the dialogue? Now, Pankaj, let me take your input on this now. A role handling government relations, regulatory, corporate communication, legal, process, program teams. So very important roles, very important roles at a strategic level. So the scope of your work, then your personal life, and then flying in and out for Pgpmax. How did you manage?
So I think kind of, Bindu and, Aparna kind of, covered it all. I mean, you need two very, important partners in this journey of yours. One is your family and one is your organization. I think you need both. And first of all, so without that's not going to be possible at all. And it's not possible. Also, I think as a part of your own commitment, you also have to give up few things, right? Because eventually everybody has 24 hours in a day, right? And out of that, you can't really compromise on your office work on very critical decisions which you can take. Delegation definitely helps. So I think Aparna mentioned about it, and I think that was one of the things which I did. One more very important decision I took, keeping in mind that you only have so much time. I'm an avid golfer, and I would play every weekend. If I don't get a golf game, then I think I have always considered it part of my nirvana to get me going for 5 days. These 5 hours I need. But when I came into doing ISB, one thing I told myself, Pankaj, for 2 years you're not going to play this. And actually I told all my friends, and I think to get my wife on board, this was a very important decision, and I think when she said that, I'm ready to do that, I think my wife also came on board, I mean, she was always there, but I think, so you have to show something to people in your circle, whether it is your boss with that extra commitment, your team members to whom, you could always say, I'm giving you this, important responsibility, and also to your family and to your kids, you have to really demonstrate. So I think if people would see that, you are committed, I think I've seen the whole ecosystem, comes and, cooperates with you. That's I've really seen. If you want something in life, you always get it, right? And so I think that is what it was. And yes, after I finished it, I and the course itself teaches you value of time, because you have so much less. So I think one of the things we always spoke about after, when we were used to joke with my friends and during my classes, man, once we finish this, we will have so much of extra time, we won't know how to do with it, what to do with it, right? So yes, but so I think that's where I will put it. I think that is how one has to learn it, but completely not possible unless you get your complete ecosystem on board with you and show that this is your commitment, to this education and to the course.
Excellent. Thank you, Pankaj, for sharing that. So we also have a question in the Q&A box where there's a lawyer asking how will the program benefit him. So now let me take you back to your campus days, because we would like to learn more about your in-class experience. Every year, the admission committee puts a lot of effort to ensure that the class that we put together is quite diverse, not just in terms of industries or functions, but also in terms of the the richness of the experience which they bring to the cohort. Now, in this year's cohort, we have a lawyer, a doctor, the DIG of police, people from defense, people from nonprofit, and so on. So tell us about your experience. Now, maybe Aparna, maybe I should start with you because you were there in one of our earlier cohorts. So how rich was that cohort? What was your in-class experience like?
Oh, it was amazing, Thomas. Let me tell you, we are even today, the 60 of us are like a close-knit family. It was amazing. We had, like you mentioned, people from defense, we had doctors, we had lawyers, we had shippies, we had marine guys, and you name it. There were entrepreneurs as well who were successfully running. A lot of senior executives were there. The best part of those times in the class was the perspective which would come from those hundreds of years of collective experience in that class. So I, from a technology, will have a very different way or perspective of looking at things vis-a-vis somebody who is, away in the sea for 6 or 8 months, or a doctor who is, continuously into his clinic or is trying to do some operation. Those wide perspectives really helps you to open up and start thinking differently, because you are so tuned to in your way of thinking that if there is a new challenge or you want to be in the field of being more creative, or even within your own field more innovative, you can see how differently people think and brilliant ideas. The way, because all of them were very well placed in their life, and they had gone through, of course, ups and downs as well. So that was one thing, the different perspective in the class. Second, the cohort become almost like a family. So I think it reminds you after 15, 18, 20 years of your work life that somewhere inside you still have a kid. You still want to be very competitive, score well, but there, your course mates, your classmates are there to assist you. That's a big thing, which is and can be replicated very nicely when you go back to work, where your collaboration, becomes the key for your success. It is not just about the knowledge. It is not just about the software. It's also about how you collaborate with your business people or the other stakeholders. And this in-class experience teaches you that after 15, 18, 20 years of your experience. Again, I'm not saying people are not doing it, but it gives you a very different perspective. So for me, it was eye-opening to hear from a doc or from a defense guy, and how passionate they were about to learn things, and how they had changed their thinking and were sharing their experience relevant to that particular course or credit. So it was amazing experience.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you, Aparna. Thank you for sharing that. Pankaj, let me get your input here. How diverse was your class? Are there some instances that you can share from the in-class experience that you had?
So I would say, one of the greatest takeaway from the course is the network that you develop. And generally, I have seen as I walked into this class, prior to that class, I think I would have known people only in the telecom industry, right? Because, for 25, 30 years, that's all I have known. And the moment you walk into class, you really realize that, how there are, people from different sectors, different experience, maybe overall experience. I don't know how much it will be. So if you average, if you take 15 years into 50 or 55, I think that turns out to be, so much of a large experience, right? People. So yes, actually, very interestingly, we did have a doctor, in our batch, but I think and of course, I mean, different professionals, right, from the IT industry, from banking industry, from healthcare, from any and sector, you name it, and people are there, right? And I think that whole experience of how do you handle, and I think the course itself is very much case oriented, right? I mean, what do you do in this course? I mean, you discuss the business cases of different industry, and it's a very discussion oriented course where the professor will come in, and then people share their experiences, and how do you do. Obviously there is a class part of it, and there is an experience part of it. So I think that is, and it is just that you get in, you are a set of those 50-55 people, then you, and also the alum network and the ISP network. I think that experience really expands, and I think it is that experience which gives you what I was really talking about, that confidence and articulation. How do you do things, and how can you do it differently? You would know how to do it in your sector, but once you get that experience from IT sector or the banking sector or from a health sector, and in today's world, I think the biggest thing what's happening today is this whole startup ecosystem, right? And there were people who came in from from the investment side. There were people who were actually angel investors. Actually, I'm a big angel investor today, thanks to whatever network I developed, and I got really interested in this side of startup ecosystem. Few of my colleagues and friends, they have gone on to launch their own startups. So I think that whole experience is so different and diverse, and to me that is one of the very big strong pillars and takeaways from the course.
Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you for sharing that. Now, Bindu, let me come to you on this. So, class of 2013, how was the class? How diverse was it? Now, on that, I also happened to see one of your blogs where you mentioned that it was term two, it was managerial economics, which was going on. And there's a softer side to all of this, designations or experience apart. You also figure out there are singers in the group, there are dancers in the group, there's somebody who is good at bowling. So, how did all of that go together? Please, if you could walk us through that experience.
Sure. So I think what Aparna and Pankaj mentioned is absolutely true in terms of backgrounds, people from very diverse backgrounds coming in to do this program. So we had somebody who had developed the entire tracking system for FedEx as a classmate. The MD of Deutsche Bank right now, Dilip Khandelwal, was our batch. He was with SAP at that point in time. We have several other Hitachi consulting. CEO was somebody called Feroz, who's still from our batch again. So there's a whole bunch of people from different backgrounds that come in. Government, somebody who right now was part of railways at that time, but then right now manages the National Skill Development Institute or Center. He is again from our batch, Vedmani Tiwari. So we've got a whole bunch of people from different backgrounds coming together, finance, IT, name the stream, and you have people from there. I think the way to look at this is there's a recent, I don't know if it's a very recent term, but it's a recent thing that we are hearing where people are talking about human libraries, right? Where you get together a bunch of people and share your experiences, because rather than reading a book, you're also getting to hear from the person. In that way, the Pgpmax class is exactly like a human management library, because I come to the problem from an operations angle. Aparna would look at it from an IT angle, and Pankaj would look at it from a compliance angle, because those are our expertise in our day jobs. But the perspectives are so important. Whatever book that you read on general management is not going to give you the perspective that an Aparna can give you, because that comes from her experience of having implemented so many different IT systems across the board. So that is what the whole class experience is. You do learn from professors because you're literally learning from cutting edge research and cutting edge consulting experience. The professors that come in are the best in their fields, and they consult with Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies. So they are looking at the latest that is happening in their respective areas, whether it is finance, whether it is, Bitcoin, whether it is whatever else, anything that you can think of, operations or whatever else. The point is that besides that, you're also sitting with 59 other superstars who are each good in their own space and bring a wealth of experience. So I think that's the advantage of doing a program like this.
Thank you, Bindu. Thank you for sharing that. Now, Pankaj, you also brought up this idea of case studies and frameworks that we use, and you also come from an industry where frameworks and case studies are used a lot. Now, we also tell a prospective applicant that there's going to be a lot of academic rigor. You literally go through 100 plus case studies. Now, what is the importance of case studies, or how did it help you in the learning experience? If there's something that you can share from that experience that you had in class.
So I think Bindu mentioned very nice point initially when she said everybody should only do exec MBA and not the the regular MBA. And I think she was actually alluding to something like that. That what happens is the case studies really give you what are case studies? Case studies are something which has happened in the past, and in the hindsight you evaluate that whether what happened and what decisions people took at that point of a time, whether that was a right decision or a wrong decision, right? I mean, that's the analytical part of it. And while discussing, that with people from very different angles, I would look at it, my experience of telecom industry. I know how similar cases have happened or what has happened, or I may even have read about those case studies, or if I would not have read earlier, these case studies are normally given in advance and then you analyze it. But obviously, you get into those discussions with your own perspective, and how different people are different, right? I mean, every company is different, every individual is different. Your analysis is very different, and when you sit down and discuss that part in thing, it really gives you that wealth of learning experience, which I'm not sure how can you get that experience in any other way. And being there in that room together really helps, and getting it there and discussing it, because those discussions may not just get restricted in that classroom. Those discussions do go in your evening session, the drink sessions that you will have. So I think I would say that was one of the very important pillars of learning, talking about those case studies, and looking at perspective of professors, and looking at perspective of students, industry veterans. And to me, some of those things have really stayed with me, so, and that's what I say. The theoretical things don't stay with you, but the practical part of it really stays with you.
Excellent. Now, let me point it back to Bindu on a different topic. So, Bindu, again, in one of your blogs, I also happened to read about the international immersion part of the Kellogg immersion, and how excited all of you were with the international immersion. Now, what does an international immersion do? How does it help you, especially when you're going through this Pgpmax experience? Can you walk us through some of the examples that you?
So the only thing I'll walk you through is when you walk into a Wharton and you realize that Warren Buffett walked the same floor, what more do you really want? Right? I mean, it's like people that you have respected in the industry, people that you know as great CEOs or great CFOs or anybody that you can think of, you're sitting probably on a seat that they sat on. That experience is just wonderful. Of course, the facilities and everything else is something that you have out here as well. That's not something very different in an international immersion. And by the time you come and do a program like Pgpmax, I guess most people have already traveled well. They've gone to several countries and they've probably experienced all of that. But a classroom environment and being taught, and again, the professors are from all over the world, any which way, even here in ISB when you're sitting in the classroom in Hyderabad or in Mohali. So that again is not very different. I think it's just that more than the US experience, I think the Brazil experience was very, very interesting because you got to see a different culture. US is more familiar for a lot of us in the last decade or 15 years. I guess US has become a lot more familiar because you keep traveling there. But some place like Brazil is not something which is very common, and you look at it very differently. The culture, the way things are done, and what the professors teach about the location and the way they come across and look at and some of their success stories. I mean, multi-level marketing of cosmetic products that a company does, Naturo in Brazil, is outstanding. You do hear about some of that happening in India. Some did, Amway did well, and then it became, it wasn't multi-level marketing anymore. But this concept has worked very, very well for just women. They don't hire any other people to do the selling of their natural products. So that experience is just unmatched. It's really outstanding.
Thank you, Printer. So bringing another idea of the difference of Pgpmax as a program. So whenever somebody reaches out to a prospective applicant, we tell them that the delivery of executive MBA is quite different. There is a top-down approach. And while a case study is discussed or while a scenario is discussed, the objective is to look at how is this impacting the larger organization, and therefore, what is the leadership and strategy decision to be taken. Now, Aparna, let me guide this question towards you. This would have been the teaching methodology that all the faculties would have emphasized a lot on. And today, as you assume this CXO role, how has all that learning helped you? When you reflect back on it, what are some of the key takeaways that you can see?
I think as mentioned previously, you start thinking and taking care of the or looking at the challenge from a very different and a very holistic perspective. So earlier you would focus on, for example, if I take the business, I'm in the field where the business, normally wants to, and it's a digital transformation thing which is happening for past almost 2 decades. The focus would be how and what best technology should I provide, right? When you are doing this course, and during that course, because you are being given, if I can use the word homework, but assignments actually, you realize it that practically when you are going to look at it, it is going to be looking at it from various aspects, like, for example, your various stakeholders, and first and foremost your customer, because what is the end objective of whatever you are trying to do or trying to solve or trying to innovate, right? This is the course which tells you don't have your mind just looking at either only on a cost save or only the commercial aspects, but you look at holistically and also ensure what is the end goal, keep that in mind, and then move backwards. But don't give up, because I at least in our class, some of us were really not very fond of accounting, right? But it taught us that it is so important for you when you reach that level which you want to achieve in your life. If you are aspirational, either you want to become an entrepreneur or a CXO role or anything for that matter, the holistic know-how of your surround and your ecosystem is very important. So that is what it teaches you. You can't just be in a CXO position or an entrepreneur. You can look only how the sales is going to be done, how is my revenue, or what kind of platform from technology perspective. There in Pgpmax, they tell you these are all supposed to be the blocks, the Lego blocks, which you have to put together for the success of either solving a problem or being innovative or trying to do something new or supporting the business and doing the best for the customer. So I think that is something which was very, very important learning which I had, because being in technology, we were very, very focused on technology. We did think about the end objective, definitely, because customer was the focus, but there are so many other aspects which you just say that somebody else is going to do it.
Excellent. Thank you, Aparna. Thank you for sharing that. Now, let me take a few questions that we have received from our participants when they registered for the event. So, in fact, I've got a lot of questions with a number attached. So, there are questions on, I've got 12 years of experience. Is this the right time to do Pgpmax? I've got 16 years of experience. Is this the right time? I've got 25 years of experience. Am I too late for Pgpmax? So, all of these are the questions which we have got. So let me bring all of this together and ask you this question. When is it the right time to do Pgpmax? If I can get your perspectives on that. I can, maybe Pankaj, I can start with you on this.
I think in Hindi they say, "Yeah, jab jago tab savera hai." So I don't think there is a wrong time or a right time, because let me if the question we need to ask is, life itself is a journey, right? And knowledge, learning, I don't think it ever ends. And to somebody who's thinking at 25 years, after 25, I would say wow, because till date life has carried you, right? And now you're thinking and think that what value it will add to you. Once you're taking it further. And I think I also did it around some 20-25 years. Somewhere around that, right? I think 20 plus experience is what I came in, because prior to that I didn't feel that much of a need. And for a 12 years, I would say exactly the same thing. But if you want to go to the higher orbit, and you feel that this is the right time for you, so this is the perfect time. So as an individuals, I would say that whenever you feel that need has come, and that you want to accelerate your career into the next phase, that's the right time. And to me, there was a time I would say, okay, I will retire at 45. Then I said, okay, I'll retire at 50. But I don't know, you are always doing some job. I'm sure Bindu is in so much of a social network, but she's still doing a job. So it's not that you'll be doing a corporate job. You could be doing something else in your life. But as long as you're doing something for that enrichment and learning experience that you will accumulate by doing this course, I think it's always going to help you.
Thank you, Pankaj. Now, Aparna, if I can get your perspective on it. When should somebody consider Pgpmax? When is it the right time to do the program?
There is no right and wrong here. It's about what is it that you are looking from Pgpmax. I'm saying, why Pgpmax? I think that's the question you have to ask yourself. So yes, if you are 12 years experience, your problems will be different. So you will go with a different objective. If you are 20 years experience, you will have a different set of aspirations, different set of challenges, and you would want to go and probably learn to, how to look at them or try to solve them, or how to move into, say, any other career options. So it purely depends on what is it that you are trying to achieve from Pgpmax, not the other way around, that what Pgpmax is going to give you. It is open. It is a huge canvas, and it gives you everything. It is up to you that what is in your life you want to do, that is what you can focus and do the Pgpmax. So whether 12 years is the right time or 25 years is the right time, it can be any time. It is just about your need, your objective, your thinking, and your call that what are you looking for out there. Pgpmax will offer you everything, okay, at any point in time. So that's my take, because me and my husband, we both did together. And it was like, for him, it was a very different perspective to gain. For me, it was a very different perspective to gain. But Pgpmax offered both of us what we wanted.
Thank you. Thank you, Aparna. Now, Bindu, what would your advice be when people are asking the number related question? When is it the right time?
I think the first thing to do is also to ask the question why before when is the right time to do it. I think the why has to be answered. Why do you want to do Pgpmax? So if you know the answer to that question, then you could figure out whether this is the right time to do this. A few things to keep in mind as you answer the why question. Pgpmax is for those people where you can implement something that you learn in the sessions and go back and implement that. So it requires a little bit of seniority. I'm not saying that you need to be the CEO, but I'm saying you need to be at a stage where you've had enough experience so that you can influence some of the decisions that would be taken basis your learnings from here. One is that. The second most important thing for the time that you need to do this program, to keep aside to do this program, you either have to be in your own business or you need to be in a senior enough position where you have somebody, your team, your one down, who can take up a lot of the work that you have, because you need that time away. So if you are, let's say, in a sales role and you need to be out there in the market every single day, it may not be the right time just at that during that phase. So you need to take a call basis why you want to do the program and what stage are you in within your organization. Designations don't matter, so don't get me wrong on that one. You could be called executive, but then you may be very much the biggest influencer in the organization. So that's not what I meant. I meant the kind of comfort that you have with the organization, whether you are able to influence some of the decisions and whether you're able to take time off. Those are the three considerations of when to do the program.
Excellent.
And whoever asked the question about 25 years, that's the best time to do it. Short answer.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Bindu, for that. I've got a lot of function-related questions too. In fact, a lot in technology. So maybe, Aparna, I should start with you. So there are a lot of people who are from the technology background who, so the questions vary from a range of concerns that they have. One is, I'm a pure technologist. Will any prerequisite knowledge of management be required to do this program? And will I be at a disadvantage if I don't have that? All the way up to, is this the right program for a technologist to scale up the ladder? Are all questions that we've got specifically on technology. So you've been a technologist, you've been handling various projects across the bank, and then you've seen a lot of people grow under you as well. So what would your advice be to them? Somebody moving from technology to business, is this a good program for them?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned in my earlier question which you had asked, right? What is it that you are looking from Pgpmax? So being a technologist doesn't stop you to learn a new stuff if you think you have not been managing anything. Because in your career, even if you are a hardcore technologist, which means you are either on the infrastructure side or you have just been doing the coding or you're architect, blah, blah, blah. But you must have managed some team. If you have not managed any team or you have not collaborated with anybody, you are just doing what is being told to you, right time, any time is the right time to get into this program. because this is the one which is going to make you learn how to work with various stakeholders. Management and all is a day-to-day life. A lot of stuff you must have learned. So that is point number one, which you have to identify. That are you looking at being in the technology stream itself, or do you really want to move towards the business? I'm answering the first question where the person is purely technologist, right? You want to move to business stream, completely different from currently what you are doing it. There, apart from Pgpmax, I presume you will have to do a lot of work on, understanding the business part of it. But Pgpmax course will come handy, as I mentioned, out of those 24 credits we had when we were doing it. It takes care of the entire organization, right from start, like a startup to a conglomerate stage that it takes. Various stages are there, and it makes you learn each stage of an organization, how it grows. So for you, irrespective of your skill sets, the basic passion of learning and getting into and understanding these various stages of the organizations in which it grows, business is part of it. I think you will definitely be benefited by it. Part two of it is where you say that I'm a technologist. Can I actually do this, and how it will benefit? It is not about being a technologist and how Pgpmax will benefit. What is it? Again, I have the same answer. What is it that you are looking at from this course? Do you want to remain only technologist and nothing else you want to do? Like you are the individual contributor, you are not going to get into any senior level. I'm sorry, I'm going a little bit on a different. Your orbit is going to change. Your universe is going to change. If it is only technology that you are going to work, then I don't know the purpose for what you intend to do the Pgpmax. But if you want to develop yourself holistically, I think this is the course which will give it to you. So you will have the skills of both. So when you reach a level where you have to take those big decisions, you already know technology. Now you also know some of the aspects which you have to consider when you take those decisions. So I think that's what you have to weigh. Your own objective, and then your own career aspiration and path. And third, if you are going to really be an entrepreneur and all, then also it is important. Or if you are in a family business, they have a separate course, you can do that. But yes, that is a call which you have to take, what you want to do.
Thank you, Aparna, for sharing that. Now, there are also questions that we receive from entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs. So let me drive this to you, Bindu. So there are entrepreneurs who are looking at the program. There are also people who are in full-time work right now who are asking if this program would help them when they would want to become an entrepreneur somewhere down the line. Now, you've been driving Shikshadan Foundation from after this program. So what is your take? How does this program help an entrepreneur?
So entrepreneurs would not like me to talk about Shikshadan. Yeah, I need to get money from entrepreneurs to run Shikshadan. So I'll keep that aside for a minute. But the point is that there is a study by HBR which says that not just exec MBA, but anybody who does an MBA wants to become an entrepreneur. It seems to spur that thought in people. So I'm sure that there are people who are already entrepreneurs wanting to do this, and there are people that may jump into the entrepreneurial bandwagon. For both, this is a great program to be in. And I'll give you examples of both. In my batch, we had somebody who was already a PhD in computer technology, chemical technology, and who became an entrepreneur setting up an analytics firm. All right. So he's also a maths whiz. We don't like him. I won't tell you the name. I mean that in jest. He probably remembered more formulas than the professor did. So anyway, the point is that set up a entrepreneurial venture a couple of years after completing the Pgpmax. He ran it pretty well using whatever he'd learned in the program, plus the See, just digressing for a minute, I don't know if somebody asked that question, but I mentioned about the human management library. It's also a 60-strong consulting firm at no cost. So if you're wanting to start, when he came over, we have our annual reunion, and he mentioned that he wants to start this. I think he got at least 100 different ideas on why he should do something, why he should not do something. So as an entrepreneur or as somebody who wants to set up something, you've got 59 other people who are all kick-ass professionals giving you advice free of cost. If you were to pay EY or Deloitte or any of KPMG or anybody, you wouldn't start your entrepreneurial journey at all. So that's the huge advantage that you've got. I'll also talk about somebody who was already into their business, and they scaled it to a very different level. One, they went in for a merger, which probably may not have happened if they had not become part of the program, because it came out as one of the ideas when we were sitting down and brainstorming after classes. So both people that are already in business and people that want to become entrepreneurs, it's a great program to be part of. You'll be paying really no money for all the free advice that you get. And of course, money. You got an angel investor right now. Inse manglo.
In fact, the next two questions are in fact to Pankaj. So Pankaj, there are both questions towards you. So there are people who are from finance background who have asked whether this is the right program for them. And there's also somebody who has got about 25 years of experience who has asked, he's already at a subject matter expert level. And he's a functional leader already, and whether he can progress into a consulting role using this poster program. So I'm targeting that finance question and consulting question to you. So what does it entail? Is this the right program for the finance person? And is this a good program as perceived by the consulting industry? Can somebody move into a horizontal role after doing this in consulting industry?
Let me answer the consulting question first. So see what happens in consulting industries. I'm assuming you have sufficient experience at this point of a time. So consulting people do hire people. One is how do you become a partner in a consulting industry? One is obviously through a regular thing, you go in as a consultant, and you walk through the ladder, and consultant, senior con, director, and partner, and all that. But a lot of all the big fours, they also take people directly from industry, which is known as DAP, direct admitted partner, which is what I am. So that would that would depend upon what course are you doing and all that, what kind of expertise you have. I mean, you could reach out to me separately on that. All I would tell you about my personal experience is that I was actually speaking to EY before joining this course. So I am a batch of 2015, and so so which means I would have passed out in 2015, in around 2013, right, Thomas? Is that what it is when you say class
right.
2015?
Right, class of 15.
That's the passing out.
Correct, passing out year, December that year.
Okay, so what had happened was, in my case, I was already speaking to somebody, and this discussion was on, but I was not confident enough that I'll be able to execute it. You see, as you say, it's not just about getting a role, right? You have to execute. Partnership is actually it is part of being an entrepreneur. So you have to run your own practice and all that. But that was very specific to me. I was being probed by these guys, can I come on board? And I was very hesitant because I was not sure, because industry is very different. When you operate in a normal industry in your respective roles, that's very different from consulting. So I finally told the gentleman, boss, I'm going for this course, and after this course we will talk again. And it just happened that once I did it, we came back. I was again busy, doing my normal things in my organization, which actually sponsored me. I went back, we were doing that role, and then this came up again. But this time when it came up, I was very confident that I can do it, and I kind of jumped on it and said, okay, this is how it is. So, but these are very individual cases. I will not say that by doing a Pgpmax course, boss, you will become a partner in a consulting firm. Okay, so, but very specific case you can discuss. You can reach out to me, and I'll be happy to have a chat with you. Similarly, about person in finance, I would say, I mean, most of the people, if you say earlier, all the CEOs will come from the sales background, but in past 5-7 years, trend has completely changed. The people with finance background are becoming CEOs and all that. But if you want to become a CEO and if you have a finance background, I mean, you need to have that business acumen. So I obviously within my batch, I had a lot of people from finance background. But what it helps you, even to the question which was asked to Aparna, if somebody is a technologist, look, you could be a technologist, but how do you apply that technology to because eventually whatever solutions you're developing, it needs to be used in the market. If it is to be used in the market, you need to have a business sense of it. And that is where, this program, actually the program is so good because it tells you about each and every aspect of, organization development, whether it is HR or whether it is sales or whether it is strategy or whether it is, M&A, what, Bindu was talking about. So it tells you everything, and that is what it really. So that is why, see, this course, if you do a pure MBA with 4 years, 5 years of experience, like a normal MBA that you do out of it, I mean, you will get into that mainstream. But once you have this 10 plus years of experience, and you want to get into that CXO level position, you need to have some sort of that holistic picture, and that is where it helps you. Everybody. So a finance person will get an overview of other functions. A person like me who was actually, so I have done sales in my life. After that, I went on to handle a telecom regulatory function in Telenor. And then when I went into Telenor, I really found that, that part of in a telecom operator, the business side of it, I was clearly missing. Because once you are part of the management team, you could be questioning there's a CFO sitting, there's a sales head sitting, and everybody's sitting over there. You need to be asking those intelligent questions, and that is how you move up in your career. That's the perspective each one of you will get once you do this course.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Pankaj. So I've also got a broader question here on why did you choose ISB over other business schools? Now, when this question comes up, I should also point out that there are other questions on ranking and accreditation. Now, these are all recent phenomena. So we've been consistently ranked for the last 3 years in the executive MBA rankings. In fact, it's the only business school from India to be ranked in the global top 100 for executive MBA. And in terms of accreditation, ISB recently became a triple crown accredited school, which is 3 different accreditations from US, UK, and Europe altogether. There are only about 126 schools or so which has triple crown accreditation, and we were the 100th school to achieve that. And most importantly, we were the youngest school because all other schools had a track record of 50, 60 years before they had that. At 20 years or less than 20 years, we had this achievement of being a triple crown school. So now, let me go back to your experience of Pgpmax or when you did Pgpmax. We didn't have this ranking, we didn't have this accreditation or anything to back Pgpmax back then. And you still chose to come to ISB. So what brought you to ISB and why not another business school? Let me start with you, Pankaj, on this.
See, one can go for learning, one can go, at any institute. I mean, I was really, I had a little bit of a connection with ISB as well. One of my brother-in-law, he has done the ISB course in his regular MBA programs. I had been to campus, and I was really happy. Once I came, but when I had gone over there, which was I think around some 8-10 years prior to doing this course, I was damn thrilled to be at that campus and look at, what's going on. I went to that huge library which you have, and there's a famous name for that in Hyderabad. I forgot the name, but so I think, and rankings do matter. I don't know how much ranking matter. I do hire a lot of people. I think what brand names do matter, but I would say if I'm in India, ISB is a great name to be, right? Surely there are other brands, IEMs is a brand. You have a lot of other, schools which are coming up. But one of the unique thing which I would say, which is true for ISB and couple of other institutes, is you get, I think it's important to get that campus flavor. And I don't think there is anything to beat that. Every fourth or fifth week, you spend that, 1 week that you spend in ISB. To me, that's an experience which has really stayed with me. I think you learn to have, your own student days back and all that. To me, that was very important. And I think, to me, more than anything, as I said, I'm going to be in this campus, for a week, every 4 or 5, for every module. To me, that was the best thing, best experience for me. I didn't really look at any of the rankings and all. To me, I was a general brand, and I thought ISB was a great brand. Thomas, anyway, you have added in terms of, I think at our time there was not much of this ranking, but I think now you also have that, right?
Right, that's right. In fact, now let me get the perspective from others as well. So Aparna, if I ask you about this, so you did the program fairly in the initial years of Pgpmax. So today we have this opportunity also for a prospective applicant to talk to multiple of our alumni who are from various industries or various functions, and hear a lot of their stories. Now, very early in the initial years of Pgpmax, when the program was still new to the campus, what brought you to ISB? What is it that, why did you take ISB as a choice?
So, extremely honest opinion is that the way when we looked at, so you search on net, right? How are the courses, and you compared. And I've been to IMA multiple times for some or the other courses, either from the organization and all. What I felt was that what Pgpmax was offering and the way they had structured the curriculum, Thomas, I think that excited me a lot. I'm not saying the other courses would not have, were not like that, but I think somewhere there was a mundaneness which was there, like they were doing it because they had something with them and they just wanted to expand it. ISB came up specifically, very specifically, with a specific curriculum which could take care of across all professionals and can bring in a lot of knowledge, research-based teachings, learnings, and the professors who were actually into this business. I'm saying profession as such. So I think that excited a lot when we went through the entire curriculum. So for me, it was more related to that I could relate to ISB definitely, and then had seen that people who were actually involved in that, who had opened and were actually involved in this entire opening of ISB school as well as Pgpmax, I think they had some very long strategic vision for them, which they had thought of. And they were all like, top-notch guys who understand the industry and the business they were in. So that gave another confidence to me that this is the one which would definitely help in what I'm trying to or aspiring to be. That time was very, very keen to be an entrepreneur, but then after the course, I thought that I would, continue and at some point in time, become somewhere in the CXO league and then see what I can, achieve. So very simple reasons, nothing very, very, very great, but I think the excitement of that curriculum, which was more research based, and hearing from those profs, really excited me, Thomas. That was a very honest way that I thought would help.
Thank you, Aparna. Thank you for putting it out candidly. Yes. Bindu, so what is your take? What brought you to ISB?
So the first thing is that it is a genuine exec MBA. I don't think there is any other school that offers exec MBA, which is actually an exec MBA, which means that the prerequisite is that you need to be working. And the program can be done when you're working. Difficult, yes, but you still can continue your work and you can do this program, which is the best thing that was available at that time, and even now. The other piece was that it was not really a distance education. At one point in time, any CV that you picked up, they would be doing an MBA from distance education from Symbiosis. That was like a stock statement in every CV. I didn't want a stock statement on my CV at all. I wasn't keen. I wanted something where I would meet people, sit with them and have those discussions. So this offers both. While without leaving my job, I could come and do this program, and it was not exactly completely distance education. I think the most defining factor for Pgpmax, if you go to a Harvard or you go to Chicago Booth or you go to Wharton and do an exec MBA, you probably will have one star professor who's outstanding in strategy or outstanding in finance, outstanding in operations, something. There will be one star professor. But in Pgpmax, you get professors who are stars in different schools, and so you end up getting a star cast. Professor Prashant Kale is considered amongst the top 10 living greatest professors. So where do you get that? Unless you go to Rice and do it from there. You've got Lewis Martins, who's outstanding. So where would you get him? You'll have to go to Texas, University of Texas or Macomb School. So it's difficult to curate and bring everybody together, and which Pgpmax has done. So why go anywhere else? This just works the best.
Thank you, Bindu, for sharing that. In fact, that is in fact a takeaway for a lot of participants here. The lineup of professors that we have in Pgpmax. If you just do a Google search and see who are the professors who teach in the program, I think that itself is an impressive list to have a look at. Now, there are a few questions which came on placements and ROI. Now, these are usual questions which come up. Now, from a program office point of view, let me also tell you, if placements is your only objective, this is probably not the right program. The drawing a common parallel out from this program is very difficult. So when you talk about ROI, the group of people who come together for this program come with so much diversity that drawing a common parallel is very difficult. But that said, since we're running out of time, and we'll take one last question. In fact, we'll take one last takeaway from all of you. What is your advice to a prospective participant who is exploring the Pgpmax program now? What would you want them to know? What would you want them to keep in their back of your head as they plan for their Pgpmax journey? What would your advice be for them? And I think that can also summarize what is the ROI from the program and bring what they should expect from the program. So Aparna, if I can start with you on this, please.
I have only very simple answer. Just go for it. Very simple answer. Just go for it, because you have today attended and you are, applied for this. That means you had something in mind. I don't know what you had in mind. ROI, if you ask me, it's learning, a mass learning, networking. You will know people like amazingly. It's a very close-knit family for past 10, 12 years. So I think just go for it. If you are really passionate about learning, about really unlearning and learning, which I mentioned earlier. And second is to actually have people who will be there for you when you need them, in, as Bindu mentioned, free of cost, in terms of any advice that you need. But that's on the lighter side. Only take Thomas's to just go for it. I don't have any other word, because me and my husband have been extremely fond of this course, and in fact, somewhere down the line, even have been telling my kids after a decade and a half or so to get into this space. So I don't know what more or beyond I can subscribe and tell anyone to go for that.
Thank you, Aparna. Pankaj, from your end, what would it be? What should a prospective applicant keep in mind?
I mean, as I said earlier, if I would have taken 5 most important critical decisions in my life, this is one of them. Rest of it in life, what carries you is momentum, right? Because of certain decisions that you have taken, your life carries on. So for me, it has been, one of the very most critical decisions which have kind of changed my life, changed perspective about not only my personal life, but also but not only my corporate life, but also my personal life. So yes, like Aparna said, I think if you guys have thought about it, you are there in this session because you're thinking about yourself, your career, and if this was one of my most critical important decisions in life, it kind of changed my life, I would really ask you guys to take the call and plunge in it.
Thank you, Pankaj. And Bindu, finally coming to you. I think you also had a write-up on this saying why doing an MBA late in life helps. And today, I think all of us have made a statement like why doing an MBA late in life is a must, right? So that said, what would your advice be to a prospective applicant? What should they keep in their mind?
So I think the first thing to keep in mind is what I said about when somebody asks about return on investment. Like I said, you've got 59 people strong consulting company behind you. Anything that I want to do, I don't do it before checking up with somebody in the batch, simply because I wanted to sell a place that my mother had in Hyderabad. A very simple thing, but it involved a lot of things that had to be done. One of my batchmates helped me do it totally free of cost. If I had not done this program and if he wasn't my batchmate, I would have probably paid anywhere between 10% to 15% of the sale value just to get the critical advice that I got from him. So there ends the ROI question. You really cannot judge the value of that kind of, Arun, who set up the consulting, the analytics company, the kind of advice that he got from all of us, he would not have been able to start his firm because the money would have gone in just getting that consulting. So that's the ROI part of it. But I think what this program also does is it opens doors that otherwise would not open. One of the biggest sponsors for Shikshadan is Colgate. And I don't think Colgate would have happened if ISB and Krishnan's IIM was not on our CVs, right? Because there are thousands of NGOs. Why should they pick and choose a place like Shikshadan? We don't advertise. We're very poor at social media. I do blog, but I blog about every damn thing on earth except Shikshadan. So there's really not something that happens. So the doors that open are very different. The kind of questions that you begin to ask at the end of the program are very different than what you do when you haven't done the program, which is very important because the results are very different when you ask different questions. The kind of access that you have is unbelievable. We call the ex-CEA of India as Subbu. We don't even call him Professor Subbu, right? How many people in India can do that? Or I call up Professor Shamika Ravi, who was till recently a part of the PM's economic advisory. She's on, on my WhatsApp because she taught us microeconomics. So how many people can do that kind of access? So the access is something which is just not possible without doing this kind of a program. So and that's the reason why you need to do it a little later in life and not very early in life. So, so that's the takeaway for anybody listening in.
Thank you so much, Bindu, for that. So we also had some questions on the program and admission process. As I said, we'll take it offline. So for that, I've just sent a one-to-one booking link in the chat box. So if anybody wants to book a conversation with us, please use this link for that. That brings us to the close of this session. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us for this session. It was a very interactive session we had, and thank you for sharing all your questions. To our panelists, Aparna, Bindu, and Pankaj, it was amazing hosting you. And thank you so much for taking the time, especially on a Saturday, for joining us in this panel and for being part of the CEO story. Your insights and experience will help a lot of prospective applicants to evaluate the program better. And that is the biggest value add from the session today. Thank you so much. Look forward to hosting you for other events as we progress. Thank you for others. Thank you so much. Have a weekend, a very good weekend ahead. Thank you and wishing you the best.
All the
Thank
best
you,
to
Thomas.
everybody who attended.
Bye-bye.
And Thomas for having us on.
All
Thank
the
you.
best, guys.
It was a
Thanks,
pleasure.
Thomas.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Aparna.
guys.
Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good luck, all. Good night.